demo the hanger bracket. So I know most of you said that this part was a little bit difficult and you didn't know where to start. I also noticed that some people noticed that they gave us a bunch of information in diameter and you defaulted to a circle. Well, ordinarily that would be the case. However, for this piece, they would like you to use the revolve feature. And so to use the revolve feature, we need to think a little bit differently. So first we need to understand that we need to know what the profile looks like. And that is this image here in the upper right hand corner. So we want to sketch something like this. This might look similar to the 3-level sketch that we did earlier, and it's going to work in a similar way. But instead of sketching this entire profile, we're only going to sketch half of this profile. And the information we need to complete this profile is found in the first picture where you have the dimensions for your diameter. And because we're doing half, we want to use the radius because the radius is half of a diameter. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the numbers that they give us for the diameter and find the radius, which means we're going to divide each one of these dimensions in half. So a 400 diameter will have a radius of 200. A diameter of 330 will have a radius of 165. A diameter of 170 will have a radius of 85. And a diameter of 100 will have a radius of 50. So those are the numbers that we're going to use in our sketch. Also, they give us the height of the bracket. The height of the bracket is 75 millimeters. They don't give us the height for each step, but they give us enough to make the sketch. So the top is going to have a depth of 15 millimeters, and the bottom will have a depth of 10 millimeters. And as long as you have this dimension to 75, this will automatically adjust itself to 50. The other piece of information is that there is a fillet on this corner. That fillet has a radius of 30. And the last part is this is not a solid piece. This is a piece that it has a shell. So we need to accommodate the thickness of this bracket. And the thickness of this bracket is 10 millimeters that goes around. So notice we're going to use the radius and not the diameter. We're going to use and dimension the height of the bracket. And we're also going to accommodate for the thickness of the bracket. So let's begin. The thing we want to do is we want to establish some lines. And I'm going to show you two ways to do this. I want to use reference lines, and in Inventor, it's called a construction line. So I'm going to click my line tool, and I want to say I want to do my width, which we know is going to be 200 because that is the radius of the 400 diameter. So now I have a line that is 200 millimeters. But I don't want this to be a permanent line, or I don't want this line to be shown. I want to use this as a reference line. So I'm going to click the line and I'm going to come up to construction. Now that my construction has been selected, it now turned this line from a solid line to a dotted line. And that's how I know that this is a construction line. So now that we have the width, let's do the height. So again, I'm going to select my line tool. Now I'm going to come and select construction. So now I'm going to start with the construction line. I'm going to start at our origin. And we know that the height of this pressure disc is 75 millimeters. So now we have two reference lines that we can use. So now let's start with the profile. If you remember, the profile is here. Looks just like the 3-level sketch. So we're going to make this like we did the 3-level sketch, using the information that they've given. But when we revolve, we need to make sure that there is a hole in the center. And to create that hole, we're again going to use a construction line. So I'm going to start up here at the top. I'm going to use the radius for the hole, which is going to be 50. So I'm going to start here with my construction line, and I'm going to come out to 50 millimeters. So now I have a construction line of 50 millimeters. Going outward, the next hole or the next circle has a radius of 85. I don't need to draw that line at 85, but I can add on to my construction line. So if I have 50 here, how do I make this 85? I just need to make another line, and this time deselect construction. And I want this line to be 35 millimeters, because if I add 35 and 50, I get 85. So now I have 2 holes that when we revolve, you will see. We're going to come down and we're just going to make some lines, and we're going to come in later and we're going to put in some dimensions. So now that we have the basic shape, let's put some dimensions in. So the first thing I want to dimension is the bottom, and we're going to start with the width. So we know we need the width of this part to be 200 millimeters. The next level up, we're again going to use the radius. And so we know that the radius for the next one will be 165. And for the top, it's going to be over constrained because we've already done some math. So it won't let me do it because we've already put some constraints in. So now we have the width. Now let's accommodate for the depth. So we have the depth here at 75. Let's dimension the bottom. And we know this needs to be 10. And this dimension here, this needs to be 15. So now we have our shape and we have it dimensioned. I'm not going to put the fillet on yet. Now I want to accommodate for the thickness of the bracket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some lines in mimicking the shape that I just drew. And then I'm going to dimension it so that the secondary lines that I put in will have a dimension of 10 millimeters from my original. So I'm going to come back with my line tool. And I'm just going to put some lines in. And I will come in later to dimension. Okay. So let's dimension. I want this thickness here to be 10. And let's check from here to here. Need that to be 10. And from here to here, we need that to be 10. And from here to here, we need that to be 10. Okay, so now we want to close our shape. I'm going to put another line in. And real easy. So now we have a closed profile. Next, we want to come and we want to put a fillet in. Now this fillet is going to have a radius, and the radius is going to be 30. So let's come in and make the radius on the outside profile 30, and we want to do the same to the inside. Okay. Let's change the dimension. There we go. Now we've changed the dimensions to both. We want to make sure that they're also concentric. It's over constrained, which means both radiuses are the same, or radii are the same. Okay, so now that we have our profile, we can now finish sketch. Once we finish sketch, we're accustomed to doing extrude, but we're not going to extrude. We're going to revolve. And we want to revolve not on a profile. We want to revolve on an axis. So we want to revolve on this imaginary line that we drew. And if we take a look, we can see that we have that profile. So let's come back and let's look at sketch one. So this construction line, I'm going to delete it. And notice it says that it's one dimension, so we're going to make sure that we have a solid line to close our profile. Okay, so now that we have that profile, we're going to finish our sketch. And now you can see that we have a shell on here and it has some thickness. So the hard part is done. The last thing that we need to do is we need to create